Well, it's certainly the recognition of folks thinking, enjoying your work,
Uh-huh.
is very meaningful. And certainly, like last night, having, the guy that inspired me, Ray
Uh-huh.
Harryhausen, looming over me like a great deity,
Uh-huh.
was very touching, very moving. Well, he wasn't my mentor so much as my inspiration. The only way that I could access his work was by looking at the movies that he did. Ray was very secretive about his processes and didn't let anybody in to see how he achieved what he achieved. So you could only do that through imagining the course that he took. And so, I mean, I think to a certain extent that had a great deal to do with me developing my own style was being wrong a lot and trying to figure out what it was that Ray and these other people had done that led me to my own conclusions. Star Wars was the big break from moving from television commercials, which was the only work that was available at that time, into feature films. Well, stop motion is a process where you put a puppet, a articulated puppet, on a stage, and you physically, move it, frame for frame for frame,
Yeah.
and for every movement you take a frame, and that creates, once you see it projected at 24 frames a second, a feeling of movement. However, what you don't get when you look at those images is anything other than a very clearly defined still image. Go Motion has a computerized rod that's attached to the puppet that is pre-programmed so that when the shutter of the camera is open, the character actually moves, thus creating a characteristic motion blur that you see in regular photography. Well, Jurassic Park was certainly it was the big glacial divide, between photographic effects and digital effects, and that took a huge, rethinking about how to approach the work. Prior to that, with stop motion animation, all of your effort had to go into the visualizing and the breaking down of the work because it was so labor intensive. Once you had shot the images, there was no going back. If there was a mistake or you didn't like the performance, you had to go all the way back the next day and do it all over again. So certainly, I think the greatest significance of computer graphics, at least for me, is its editorial capability that you can take things a certain distance and then go back and fix them. That's good and that's bad. If you're dealing with very experienced animators, it's very good. If you're dealing with not so experienced animators, then you can get an okay performance ultimately, but it takes a long time and it's usually very painful. Yeah, well, it coincided with the shift that was taking place already between being hands-on and actually being a physical animator. And part of the thing that was going on was that production schedules were becoming shorter and shorter and shorter, which meant that you had to have more and more crews, which meant that I had to move from being a hands-on person to directing, more people. And that just escalated with computer graphics. You needed more and more people to do more and more work in a shorter and shorter period of time. So it just kind of by default put me in a position of being more of a director. The process of doing stop motion animation was a very physical process, and you did a lot of different things. Computer graphic animation is pretty much sitting down at a desk and moving a mouse, and I don't like to do that. I just can't sit still long enough. It hasn't changed it that much. I have pretty much the same mindset and methodologies and ways that I go about thinking things. It's just a different tool. The way I think is different. I usually don't let technology get in the way of what I'm thinking. If technology won't let me do what I'm thinking, I'll break it. I think that it's a mistake to use what's easy about the technology to just press a button
Mm.
and make things move. Anybody can do that. But if you have an intent to try and do something else, then by default, I mean, even when I was doing more traditional stop motion type work, you were always looking for what else can I do? You know, how can I break what's there and try it a different way?